Hey creeps, it's Cameron again, and welcome back to Library Macabre. Thank you so much for joining me for my review of Cursed Objects, strange but true stories of the world's most infamous items by J.W. Ocker. But before I talk about Cursed Objects in depth, tonight's beverage of choice is the s'mores tea titled Campfire Fears, which I received in the August Nightworms package. This tea is from Inlumos Libertas, and they have done a lot of teas for the Nightworms packages in the past, but I have yet to try this one, so I thought I would do it on camera because a lot of you have been asking me what it tastes like, because it's s'mores tea, and that's pretty different. I have had s'mores coffee from Bones Coffee Company, and let me say, that is some good stuff. Very, very good. But s'mores tea, that's a little bit different. So, I'm going to try it. I have not even taken a sip of this yet, so this is going to be my honest reaction. Wow. Okay. That's good. I didn't taste any marshmallow at first, and then it hit me. Let me take another sip real quick. It's actually really good. I didn't know what to expect from it. I just thought it was kind of different, that there would be a s'mores tea. It's surprisingly refreshing, honestly. It's got a little bit of a natural sweetness, but it's not overpowering. It's very subtle. I really taste the marshmallow in there. So if you don't like marshmallow, I wouldn't recommend getting this, but if you do, it's good. I like it. If you would like to try the tea for yourself, I'm going to link down below to their store. I don't know if this tea is currently on sale or not. I'll have to take a look. If it is, I will link specifically to this tea. If not, I'll just link to their store wherever you can try their teas. I've tried a few different kinds and they're really good. Okay, enough tea talk. Let's get into Cursed Objects by J.W. Ocker. I have been a big fan of J.W. Ocker's work for a couple of years now, ever since I read his book called A Season with the Witch, which was a very fun Halloween-y travel guide about Salem, Massachusetts. In fact, J.W. Ocker lived in Salem pretty much for the entire month of October when he was writing the book with his family, and he basically just did everything there was to do in Salem during the Halloween season, and not only wrote about those things, but also, the history of Salem. It was just a very enjoyable book. I had a lot of fun reading it, so I've been following J.W. Ocker's work ever since then. I read his debut horror novel last year called 12 Nights at Rotter House, which was a really cool haunted house story. I guess you could say it was a meta take on the haunted house subgenre. It played a lot on those tropes. It was just a good time. I really loved that book. He also wrote a middle grade horror novel called Death and Douglas, which I have yet to read, though I do have a copy on my shelves. I'm really hoping I can get to that this October. He is also the author of several other spooky nonfiction books that I would really like to check out at some point. He also hosts the Odd Things I've Seen podcast, which is amazing. He basically just documents all of the weird and spooky things that he sees throughout his travels. Again, that's all going to be down below in the graveyard, so I definitely recommend checking him out, giving him a follow. But tonight, I'm here to talk about Cursed Objects, this beautiful, stunning book from Quirk Books. And this is basically exactly what the title says. There's nothing much else to it. It is a book chronicling cursed objects throughout history. Basically, I read about a whole bunch of cursed objects, or in some cases haunted objects, that I already knew about, like for instance Annabelle the doll, which is featured in the Conjuring universe movies, the infamous Hope Diamond, which is on display at the Smithsonian Museum, the Dybbuk box, which is also really well known. There was a movie based off of that. Shakespeare's grave is also in here. There's a whole section about the Crying Boy paintings. So if you're interested in the paranormal or cursed objects specifically, there's going to be a lot in here that you've already heard of. But the good thing is that there's also going to be a lot in here that you have never heard of. This book is filled with cursed chairs, cursed rings, cursed graves. There are cursed statues, cursed mummies, cursed dolls, which are really popular. And all of these accounts are told in J.W. Ocker's entertaining and passionate style. He is very passionate about what he does. He knows his stuff. You can tell that he researched every little thing about each and every single one of these cursed items. And if you follow his podcast, you know that a lot of the items that he writes about in this book are ones that he visited himself. He's actually seen them in person or held them. And he even ordered a cursed item, quote unquote, off of eBay. So that way he could have that while he was writing this book and maybe possibly have some bad fortune come his way. Whether or not anything actually happened, you'll have to read the book and find out. He does talk about that. But no matter what, it was just a funny little addition to the book. Cursed Objects is also broken up into sections. So the very first one we have is Cursed Under Glass, which basically talks about cursed items that are on display in museums. Next is Cursed in the Graveyard, basically about cursed grave sites. Cursed in the Attic, which is about toys, chairs, any kind of antique you can imagine that you would find in your own old decrepit mansion if you have one. I don't happen to have any decrepit mansions laying around. I wish I did. Next is Cursed in Stone, which is basically cursed rocks, which are a lot harder to get rid of than you would think. The Business of Cursed Objects. This one was interesting. This actually goes over people who collect cursed objects and use those objects to make money. I really liked that section. That was really fun. There was also another section called Why Aren't These Objects Cursed? Just objects that are inherently creepy on their own, but somehow are not cursed. And lastly is The Curse in the Machine, which is an interesting section. It actually features James Dean's Porsche that he died in. It was the car that he nicknamed Little Bastard. I'm a big James Dean fan, so it was cool to see that included in here. So with Cursed Objects, we have a very well-researched, well-written book. It's very entertaining, it's very funny at times, but not only that, but this is a book published by Quirk Books. And if you are familiar with Quirk, you know that they release stunningly beautiful books. As you can tell by the cover, I really like this bluish sheen that the cover has. I just think that's so pretty. I have not been able to stop looking at it. In fact, the whole time I was reading the book, I would keep closing it just to stare at the cover. It's also very soft. It just kind of feels good to hold in your hands. It's very durable. Cursed Objects is also beautifully illustrated by John McNair. As you've been able to see throughout the video, the illustrations are just stunning, and they really lend a spooky nature to the book, even more so. The whole time I was reading this, I just felt like I was sitting in the Hogwarts library poring over books. So it's fun. It's just a good time. There was never a moment where I was bored. And Tony here actually read the book after me, and it turns out we both felt the same exact way about the book. So Tony, why don't you give them your star rating? I'm sorry, your pumpkin rating. 5 out of 5 pumpkins. Yeah, I totally agree with Tony here. It's like we're the same person, or like he's a Halloween prop and I'm just putting words in his mouth. Tony here is not a cursed object, though, at least not that I know of. I guess we'll find out eventually, huh, Tony? Right. Okay. Moving on. I give Cursed Objects by J.W. Ocker my highest recommendation, especially for the Halloween season. If you want something spooky but non-fiction to read, this is your best bet. So that wraps up my review of Cursed Objects. I would also like to let you guys know that I was on a podcast a couple of days ago. I was over on the Cryptids, Crypts, and Coffee podcast, which was a lot of fun. I talked to my good friends Janine and Lou. They asked me all kinds of questions about horror, writing, books, movies, ghosts, ghost hunting, all of that fun stuff. So I will link that down below in the graveyard if you want to go and watch that. It was a good time. I feel like it turned out really well. And also, if you would like to see more tea reviews in my future videos, just let me know down below in the comments, and I will keep doing them. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to comment, rate, and subscribe, because that really helps me. Thank you so much to my Patreon supporters for everything that you do. I will see you guys in my next video, which will be my monthly Nightworms unpackaging. So, see you then. Later, creeps.